we don't have any use for a 22-second flying man. So they pulled the plug on the contract.
Well, there you go. That's why we don't have jetpacks now.
Dang it.
This is when the Super Bowl halftime show went from being just a break in the game to actually a separate piece of entertainment that people wanted to watch.
Broadcasting from Nashville, Tennessee, offering a glimpse inside the music industry, shedding light on things they don't want you to know, and exposing some of the industry's biggest secrets. You're listening to the Turned Up Podcast, presented by Real Sound Productions. Here are your hosts, Jake Jones.
Your nails are hideous.
And Robert Venable.
Where'd the padded walls go? I missed those.
Buenos dias, senor.
What a game. Yesterday. Did you see that game?
I did. I saw the team with the guys with the helmets and the pads won.
Right. They did. And the other team that had the other pads and the different helmets lost, and that was unfortunate. I was going for the team that won, lost for a while, and then they unfortunately won and lost.
I am very happy and disappointed at the exact same time over the game where the team won and lost.
Truth be told, the game hasn't even started yet. We are recording this yesterday, if you're listening on Monday.
1 hour before game time. 1 hour before kickoff.
So it hasn't happened yet. So we should go back and overdub. Oh, man, what a game.
The Eagles
won. Just like total studio magic it and make it sound a little completely fake.
So I actually, you can attest to this. We're currently in my studio. I invited a bunch of people over for a Super Bowl party.
Yep.
And I made this whole flyer and everything that says, "We don't give a duck who wins the Super Bowl game time party."
What are the names of the teams?
It is the New England Parrots and the Philadelphia Turkeys.
That's right. That's why we don't give a duck.
That's what I put on the flyer, which I think is funny because you didn't even catch it.
I didn't catch any of that. I saw the little rubber ducky picture at the top of your flyer that you sent, but I just thought you were just being random because, I don't know, because you're you. But then you're like, did you not catch it? I'm like, catch what? And so, the first thing you showed me were the different names of the teams. And I'm like, oh, I totally missed all of that. Just assumed it said Patriots and Eagles instead of Parrots and Turkeys.
Well, if you glance over, I did the colors and fonts and everything. Well, why are we talking about the Super Bowl right now, Robert?
Well, if you think back over the last, 20, 30, 50 years that the Super Bowl's been happening, there have been quite a few interesting halftime shows.
What was the very first halftime show like? You were there, right?
The very first time, it was interesting. I was trying to come up with something really clever. Okay, so the very first Super Bowl halftime show, I was there. I rode my horse and carriage up to the gates. I think this was probably in the 60s. So actually, to be honest, we're going to talk about this in a second. There were a lot of very, very interesting things that happened in the very first halftime show.
Halftime, laugh time.
It was like a circus.
It sure was. Before we get into it, though, I want to tell you about my beautiful friend, my co-host, one of the greatest human beings I've ever known. And he's currently giving me some loving eyes from across the room. Robert Venable, he is an award-winning producer, engineer, Grammy-nominated, Dove Award-winning. I have a good, strong feeling about to be the We Love Music Award-winning for Rock Album of the Year. He's a songwriter. He's a multi-instrumentalist, drums, guitar, piano.
That's how you say it here in Nashville.
and truly, I am honored to call you my friend, Robert, and I am blown away every day. I learn something new and incredible that you do.
Thanks, man.
And just this morning, I found out about your hedgehog grooming business that you've been doing on the side. So now that's not that weird, although I've never heard of it before. The fact that you go in and paint their little nails is what I think is really impressive. Because they're so tiny, but it's something that you've devoted the last 30 or 40 years of your life to.
2 old person jokes in the first, 3 minutes of the podcast. I got into that kind of accidentally. I had a glove business that I was trying to start and get off the ground, making these leather gloves for hedges. And then someone misread the package, said they've been using it for their hedgehogs. I'm like, what do you mean using it for your hedgehogs? To handle them? And I'm like, oh, wow. So I put them on, started holding hedgehogs just for fun, walking around the factory, and noticed their nails were just hideous. So I'm like, how are we going to make these hedgehogs better?
Your nails are hideous.
That's what we said. And so I just held them in one hand and painted with the other hand while holding these gloves, and just kind of made a name for myself in the industry. But in front of me, Jake Jones, besides being quick-witted with coming up with random made-up professions of mine over the last 30/40 years of my life, In front of me, Jake Jones, my man, not only being one of my best true friends in this world, and puts up with my junk. You are an award. He's going so much stuff. You are an award-winning engineer, producer, songwriter. You play the git fiddle, as they say here in Nash Vegas.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Writing a lot of songs lately about country music, right? We're just writing some country songs.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get some placement with those.
Bing bong, bing bong.
Caught me a frog. Don't take that lyric. That's mine. Copyright Jake Jones and Robert Venable 2017. We'll call it last year. Anyway, you guys are bored listening to this, but let me tell you a little bit more about Jake Jones. Besides singing/playing guitar in the chart-topping band As We Ascend, also up for a We Love Award coming up in the next week or two. I think 2 categories we're nominated in.
That's right.
So you and I might come home with some trophies or something, whatever they give us.
We're number 1. Maybe they'll give us like a participation award.
It might be an ice cube. We'll have it for the first part of the drive home, and then it'll just be gone. And but you're also, and this is true, I did not know until about 5 minutes ago that you are an outstanding whistler. Like I had no idea. True. I had no idea that you played a song. I said, who did the whistling on it? And you raised your hand, and I had no idea that you were such a good whistler. Here's my whistling abilities. This is not edited whatsoever. I will give you my full range of whistling. Here it goes. That's it.
There's too much. You got too much teeth in there. Like,
I can't help the size of my teeth.
You got to move your teeth out of the way. Yeah.
Just pull them out real quick. Much better, right? Oh, we need to get into this podcast because I'm sure our listenership just went way down. Like, what is that crazy chirping sound?
All right. Halftime, laugh time, schmaff time, whatever.
There has to be a first Super Bowl at some point. So let's rewind back.
Well, you were there. Remember your horse and buggy.
So here's what I saw while I was sitting in the audience. And I don't even know that they called it a Super Bowl as much as it was like the AFC, NFC Championship World Series game.
Well, and football wasn't that big of a sport back then.
I mean, people played it and people watched, but it just wasn't huge. It wasn't a big American national thing to do.
And today, the halftime show itself is its own entity, completely separate from the game. It is produced independently. It is its own thing. It's the thing that people will be talking about, as you'll hear as we get into this podcast. It's the thing that people will be talking about for years and years to come.
And a lot of people only watched the halftime show, the commercials and the halftime show, and they talk during the rest of the game.
I think it's funny, even in our research, I had to look up which teams played those years.
Right.
But I remembered which artists played the halftime.
Right. And people think differently. Like, I guess being in the music industry as you and I are, we think about, the halftime show, that's going to be fun. But a lot of other people who are huge into football, like, I don't give a flip about Janet Jackson. I don't know. Like I was saying, first Super Bowl halftime performance, and this is not a lie, featured the following: jetpacks, tons of pigeons, 10,000 plus balloons. The game's the Packers and the Chiefs, go Packers, which happened to win 35-10 back in
very first Super Bowl,
1967.
Wow.
Okay. So this guy was commissioned by the U.S. Army to make a jetpack that they wanted to eventually bring into war, or military zones and stuff like that, to have an advantage over the other, the opposition.
Jetpack.
I know. Awesome. I mean, the 60s, the world was their horizon, and they're like, what are we going to do? Like,
they all thought we'd all have flying cars by now.
Of course. So jetpacks are the next natural thing to happen.
Of course.
So they were trying to develop this and paid thousands of dollars. He eventually, one of his prototypes failed, and he fell and broke his leg and his knee. So he paid some 19-year-old $150 a week to be his guinea pig. And here, let me strap this to your back, and let's just keep doing these test flights until we perfect this.
I don't think he got paid enough.
So, okay. Fast forward, I think that was in 1960. So 1967, the first halftime of the first Super Bowl, they said, okay, we want you and a buddy to come in with your jetpack. So 2 dudes in jetpacks, right? Each guy wearing a shirt. One says AFC, the other says NFC, right? So each of them have a different opposing shirt on. One's going for the Packers and the other for the Chiefs, whatever. They can only fly 20 to 22 seconds at max. They run out of fuel or overheat or whatever it may be. So they're up there flying around. People were releasing pigeons up into the air, flying. They made this.
That's not dangerous at all.
10,000 balloons flying around. It just became like a little circus, I guess. And that was the first halftime show.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know any of that.
We don't have any use for a 22-second flying man. So they pulled the plug on the contract.
Well, there you go. That's why we don't have jetpacks now.
Dang it.
What if they had kept working on that technology?
If they started that 1960-ish, then we should probably have jetpacks everywhere right now.
Fly us into space.
Fly us anywhere. Fly us to work.
It would be amazing. This would be the Jetsons.
We just hear, like flying across the sky. I really hope it makes that sound too instead of
Right, yeah, no, that's boring. I want to jump forward a couple of years. Super Bowl VI. So this is 1972 now. Carol Channing was the halftime performer. She was a Broadway star with over 5,000 performances of Hello, Dolly, which is just insane.
Right. I was supposed to say, I don't know who Carol Channing is.
Right. Well, she did 5,000 performances of Hello, Dolly.
Now I know.
She only missed half of one show from food poisoning.
So out of 5,000 performances, literally just missed half a show?
Half a show, food poisoning. That's dedication. Like, she probably just like puked on stage, right? It's disgusting.
Pulled her off. Get off the stage, Carol.
So she opened up the show, and after her was Mickey Rooney, George Burns, and Andy Williams.
I forgot about George Burns.
Oh, man. I love Burns and Allen.
Never even heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Burns and Allen. Not only do I love that show, I actually have a best of, greatest of DVD collection. And for those of you youngsters listening, a DVD is an antiquated way to watch film.
I was just reading about the Burns and Allen show, and it looks like it was started in vaudeville in the 1920s, and then radio stuff, and then eventually it was broadcast on CBS from 1950 to 58.
Yeah, they were kind of like, it's a little bit of like a I Love Lucy sort of type, husband and wife comedy.
In that research for this, that was 1972, and you fast forward a little bit, like over the next few years, everybody's kind of just bringing in those kind of random Broadway stars or local celebrities,
comedians,
anything they could do. So let's take it to 1989. We have the first corporate sponsor for a halftime show, and that would be none other than...
Wait. I want to take a guess.
Take a guess.
Pepsi.
Close. Coca-Cola.
That's crazy.
That was a pretty good guess, though. And it wasn't for Coke. It was actually for Diet Coke. And that's when they brought out... I don't know if you remember. You might be a little too young. I remember seeing this, or maybe it was... I don't know. Maybe it's a fake memory of seeing this.
I was one.
Okay, so no. They made a 3D Diet Coke advertisement during the halftime show, and everybody was instructed to put on some glasses. And
really?
Yeah, and it was completely... It just sucked. It was horrible. They call it lackluster. Right after that commercial, they went back live to a magic show by a guy that's supposed to look like Elvis Presley, and his name is, no joke, Elvis Presto. And he was doing card tricks and magic tricks at the halftime of this show.
I have actually read about this before.
And so that was 1989 Super Bowl 23.
I can just see him so the performance is bombing, the 3D thing just no good. All right. Hey Presto, you need to get out there now. This bomb is going bad. Save the show. He gets out there. Hey everybody, my name is Elvis Presto, and I'm going to show you some. Everybody's just booing. Yeah, no, that is a very funny mental picture.
I hope Elvis Presto is still around doing stuff. Like maybe he has a Vegas show somewhere, maybe outside of a Vegas show. He's standing on the corner.
Probably really old.
That's only 1989. I don't know if he was, let's say 50, then he could still be around doing something. Oh, pick a card. Any card. Off the ground because I dropped them. Oh man, that was 89.
So the Super Bowl halftime show that we see now, it's obviously very produced. There's fireworks. There's a light show. There's big props. All kinds of crazy things.
Oh, yeah.
So at some point, we obviously had to have made the leap from card tricks at halftime to live, pop stars performing. When did that happen?
Well, I'm not sure. There's a couple different things we'll talk about in a second which could contribute to it. And a lot of people say this is the one that turned the corner. This is the one that made it big. I don't know. It might start around 91.
Okay.
Because before that, Elvis Presto, come on. What are the numbers there? Fox is starting to go, hey, we need to boost this a little bit somehow. We need some kind of numbers being boosted. How do we get the younger crowd? How do we bring people in to watch this? Like, kids aren't giving a flip about football.
Well, in my research, I was noticing, especially like people were tuning into the game and then, it's halftime. Let's turn the game off.
Yes.
We'll go do something else. The game comes back on.
Exactly. And so how do you keep that viewership? And what if they forget? Oh man, we forgot the game came back on. We got so engrossed in this game of Monopoly that last 4 hours. We forgot to go back and watch part 2 of the game. So, they brought in, well, who's the big people right now? New Kids on the Block. Super Bowl number 25, 1991. New Kids on the Block are commissioned. Fox wanted to reach a younger crowd, so they pulled them in. They performed their song Step by Step, which was huge at the moment. And you still see in the background, you can probably find YouTube videos of this, where people in the background just aren't watching. They aren't paying attention. They're talking. They're getting up. And they actually have fake canned applause that was piped in to the performance and into the arena to make it seem like they were playing to a lot of people who actually cared.
I've actually heard that at other concerts I've been to, fake applause. In fact, and I don't mean to throw her under the bus, but you and I just saw New Kids on the Block recently.
We did.
And
with a couple of other artists that I'm really, really fond of.
A couple of other artists, one of those being Paula Abdul. I don't know her personally. She follows me on Twitter. We've tweeted back and forth a couple of times. However, her performance of the night was the most obviously faked. It was the most obviously lip-synced, and she had some really loud canned applause coming out of the speakers.
Right. If you're sitting in the right place in an arena like that, you can hear the applause coming from the speakers, and you know it's not coming from anybody else because you can look around and see no one's hands moving. That's what they did. They tried. They made an effort. The year after that was even worse.
So this is actually the first Super Bowl I remember.
So this was 92.
I was 4.
You remember that. You were watching the Super Bowl at the age of 4.
I was. In fact, the Super Bowl and football in general was a huge deal in my home. I can even tell you where I was that year.
Please do. That'd be boring.
We were at Tommy's house.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I remember
it
you.
was Tom and Marion, right? Yeah.
And they had the game on there, I'm sure. Right?
They did.
The TV by their couch.
Yeah. It was in front of their couch, actually. How did you know?
I feel like you've told me this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, they're big Star Trek fans. Anyway, but I do remember this Super Bowl, and especially after researching it, it's like, holy cow, I really do remember this Super Bowl halftime show.
It's the one they called Winter Magic.
That's right, yeah. So it was a month after Christmas, but they still had Christmas music and kept inviting people to come on, feel the cold.
I remember the song, like, come feel the cold, come on, feel the cold, something like that. Stupid, very sing-songy.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, it's 18 degrees outside, which it was literally 18 degrees out. Even though they're playing an indoor arena at that point, it's still freezing cold. And yeah, we feel the cold, but like kind of wacky.
So picture this for a halftime show. Imagine if they did this today.
Okay.
Or I guess yesterday,
depending on when you're listening, or a few days ago.
Or a few days ago.
If you're late.
Or months ago, if you're just now catching up. So it was Super Bowl 26, 1992. The halftime show featured a stringed quartet, a figure skater,
one figure skater,
awkward dancing snowflakes, the Nutcracker Suite, Frosty the Snowman rap by children, Go Frosty Go, Yo Frosty Yo, snowmobiles, and Gloria Estefan.
Because what doesn't scream winter or coldness like a pop singer from Cuba, Gloria Estefan?
Ooh.
When I think of wintertime, I think of
Havana, ooh, na, na. Hey. Half of my heart is in Havana, ooh, na, na. Hey.
So yeah, that makes total sense.
22 million people were so engrossed by this halftime show that they changed the channel to watch in living color.
That's right, because in living color had this, I don't know if it's controversial. I mean, you can also find this on YouTube if you look it up, or just in general on the interwebs. I forgot what it was called. Men on Football or something like that. Yeah. It's like had this like two guys talking about football or something. Skit that made it famous. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, so like that it aired the same time as the Super Bowl, and everybody just switched from the halftime show. I mean, who'd want to miss the Winter Magic, but whatever. And switched back over to watching in living color.
Yes. 1992 Super Bowl.
Again, another fail.
Breathtaking.
No.
So now the NFL needs to rally the troops. They need to figure out something to bring back the halftime show, to make it memorable, make something that people are going to want to talk about. This is when the Super Bowl halftime show went from being just a break in the game to actually a separate piece of entertainment that people wanted to watch.
I think I'm on the same page with you on this one. I do think this is where the page turned a little bit. So this was 1993, Super Bowl number 27. And one of my favorite musical artists of all time was commissioned to play the halftime show, Michael Jackson.
Ow!
Yes, so he performed for 12 minutes, and it pains me to say that probably literally the first 3 minutes of this performance were just applause because it's Michael Jackson.
I'm going to do this for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I was letting you. Start over.
Oh, sorry.
And then the last 2 or 3 minutes were him interacting with the children. He had 3,500 children on stage with him. So he lip synced because, pop singers dancing around the stage, you can't do it without lip syncing. And if you don't know about that, you can go back to our very first episode and we talk about that a little bit. So he's doing a medley that had Billie Jean and Jam and Black or White. Then he did a little clip from We Are the World as the crowd turned over these huge cards revealing drawings by little children of Los Angeles, which was kind of cool. And then he finished the show with Heal the World while surrounded with 3,500 of the kids I was talking about a second ago. And this huge blow up, like inflated globe deployed from the 50-yard line. And I think that's like that kind of production with all these kids and this like heartwarming stuff and the good music and an A-list celebrity on the field doing the show is kind of where the corner turns a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So fast forward, 2002, Super Bowl 36, U2.
Mm-hmm.
Right on the heels of 9/11, we needed this.
It was I remember watching this show and I remember like the feeling in America at the time because right off the heels, it's only a few months later where we don't know what's happening in our country. Wars happening, all this stuff's like in the works. And we have this on TV. This is the first Super Bowl since all that happened. Like we need something, we need an escape. And U2 brought it.
They did. It was an amazing performance. And in the years following, there were a ton of amazing performers. Everyone from Shania Twain to no doubt Paul McCartney was one of my favorites.
That was a good one.
The Rolling Stones, Prince, which we're going to talk about a little later.
Great performance.
Tom Petty, rest in peace. Man. Bruce Springsteen, The Who, Black Eyed Peas. I remember that was the most disappointing.
It was so hard to watch.
That was the most disappointing halftime show ever.
I've never seen the Black Eyed Peas live, like personally in person, but I've seen them on TV, like a New Year's Eve thing. I've seen them do Super Bowl, and I've been very unimpressed every performance I've seen.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know. I love their music. I think Will.i.am's an awesome producer. I just don't get into it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The Black Eyed Peas. I like a lot of their tunes.
I like to eat Black Eyed Peas.
Oof. Oh, we made Black Eyed Peas for New Year's because it's like the tradition. I ate like one spoonful, and to me they just taste like a spoonful of dirt.
It depends on how you like. It's all about the broth that you're cooking it in, I guess. I don't know. Everybody's gonna say you didn't do it right, but I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
We didn't do it right because we put Black Eyed Peas in the broth.
Do you remember? Okay, when you think of halftime shows. If one sticks out in your mind, I think this one is going to be it for me.
The pièce de résistance.
I think this is it. And this is 2004, Super Bowl 38. Some people refer to it as Nipplegate.
Nipplegate.
Are we going to lose our clean rating for this one?
Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. Now, if you are old enough to remember this one,
I remember watching it.
You definitely remember. I'm going to add to this story a little bit. Not only do I remember it, I was in youth group, okay? 2004, I was 16 years old, and every Super Bowl, our church would get the men and the boys, the teenage youth boys and their fathers, and any men from the church. We would all get together at this building that we had, and we had this gigantic big screen TV, and everybody would bring finger food and snacks, and the men would hang out and watch the Super Bowl. Now imagine a room full of God-fearing Christian men.
Dude.
The pastor and the executive pastors and the associate, all the ministry team there, all of us watching, us teenage boys, as Justin Timberlake rips off the breast covering for Janet Jackson live on television for all to see.
And it was a close-up. It was, from the chest up of just their two faces, and they were frozen. It was like the last move of the dance. They stood like
have you naked by the end of this song?
Bong, rip. And it wasn't even on beat. It was like, bong, grab it, there, pulled it off. And they say wardrobe malfunction. All you have to do is search the term wardrobe malfunction, and I guarantee that's the first thing that shows up. Yep. Please don't search that. but that whole incident, the performance was great. I was like, this is killing. This is amazing performance. And then that happened, and you all of a sudden forget everything that just happened, and you only remember that last 2 seconds that the camera was there. And you're like, what did I just see?
140 million people saw that same thing. 140 million people.
That's a lot of people to see your unmentionable, but
This is singular.
it's just one. But so the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, actually fined CBS a record $550,000.
$500,000.
And it was definitely disputed in the Supreme Court. And the fine was appealed and ultimately voided by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in 2011. They tried to reinstate the fine, but was refused in 2012.
It's kind of amazing it like went on for that long.
There's a whole bunch of like back and forth over whether it was pre-planned, like publicity stunt, which trust me, happens all the time.
Well, and I'm 100% sure that it was, but I guess the question then becomes, can you prove it?
Right. How do you prove intention? Like, what if it was just, I mean, I guess you could talk to the person who made the dress and did they make it with a little snap off area there? I mean, hey, just leave this little corner unstitched a little bit because that person would have to know. There has to be some kind of record somewhere.
Right.
Maybe on an email server in someone's basement.
Hillary Clinton actually.
Right. I wasn't going to say
so
her
it's
name.
probably gone.
Yeah, it's gone now, but
She deleted it.
so did you know that Janet Jackson was the most searched term that year?
I'm not surprised.
And it actually broke the record for the most searched event over one day. And so there's a world record set for the most searched event ever.
So obviously, whatever they were trying to accomplish, they accomplished.
It sure did. They got away scot-free too. And it changed the way that live television is kind of broadcast forever because that's what actually reinforced the necessity of having a 6-second delay.
Yep.
Kind of like radio, which we talked about before too.
Right. So, yeah, I know that it became, I'm not sure if it's an FCC law or not, but I know that all radio, all television, all live television has a 6-second delay now as a direct result of that happening.
When I was a kid, I always used to watch like live events, wondering, not wanting to happen, but wondering if it happened. What if a bomb hit right now? Like we would get to see it. We would watch all these people just explode. I mean, you know how little boys are like, oh yeah, man, it's blood and guts. It'd be crazy.
Yeah, no, I can't say that.
All the other people in my ward thought the same thing.
I'm just going to step out now. You stay there. Keep recording. Okay, bye.
Where'd the padded walls go? I missed those. Okay, so I would say that's probably the one that I would pinpoint as being the most memorable halftime show that I've ever seen.
So yes, while that might be the most memorable, and I'm sure it certainly is, this next one is probably my favorite.
I think this one tops most charts for the number one performance during a halftime show.
The artist is Prince.
I love Prince.
2007 Super Bowl 41 in Miami. It is pouring rain.
Yeah, and then that's if it's not snowing, it's raining. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like when you think of football and Die Hard, the ultimate conditions to play in. You always think of like the Vikings, Packers, way up there in the north, playing during these big, huge, like Steelers. I don't know, during like snowy days.
Yep.
So I guess if you're in Miami, you're expecting sunshine, but it's just downpouring. I'm like, this is a Super Bowl. This is football. This is great.
You go. So, complete side note, rabbit trail. When it would rain, my buddy and I would dress up. I had a Dallas Cowboys like kids helmet and shoulder pads and like the jersey and pants.
Yes.
And then I had that, and then I had one for UT. So I would wear the Cowboys because Cowboys are the best team that ever was and never will be. And then he would wear the UT one, and then we would just go out in the rain and play football and tackle each other over and over so that we could get really muddy.
Good times.
Okay, so it's Miami. It's pouring rain right before he's supposed to go out, right?
Yeah.
It's halftime. They ask him, are you sure you want to do this? It's raining really hard.
Yeah, they could pull an audible. I mean, think about it. Electronics and rain, not a good idea.
His answer is my favorite. Can you make it rain harder? That's what he says.
Rad.
Yeah. So he goes out. Of course, his dancers that he's got on stage are slipping and sliding everywhere, but Prince freaking nails it.
Dude.
And of course, what song did he end it with?
Purple Rain. Why not?
70,000 fans waved flashlights and sang along.
Can you imagine that? Pouring down rain, 70,000 people singing your lyrics to your song, flashlights, cell phones, I don't know, whatever they were using in 2007, with lights on them, cigarette lighters if they were allowed in, I don't know. Just all doing your song. That's crazy, man.
Absolutely. That would
Goosebumps.
have been cool to be there.
So this next one made a little bit of a ripple in the headlines as well. Not as much as Nipplegate, not a big of ripple as a Nipplegate, but a little different. This was 2012 Super Bowl 46, and this is the one that Madonna did, and she had all those other guests on: LMFAO, Nicki Minaj, MIA, CeeLo, and during one of the songs towards the end, "Gimme Your Lovin'," MIA and Nicki Minaj were singing along with her, and I remember MIA flipping the bird, stuck her middle finger up. All these fans started talking about it online. It was all the rage. Everybody saw it. Everybody acknowledged it, and she's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so that made headlines, and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Middle finger. And everybody's like posting stills from their recorded DVRs. And
the thing is, like, the 6-second delay is great if you catch what it is that they did.
Yeah, some people, don't catch everything. You're looking for other things, and you don't notice one little finger flipping up a little bit. So yeah, that happened. Everyone saw it, created the controversy, but it's just not as much as Nipplegate.
So let's jump to 2013.
Okay.
What happened?
That was Ravens versus 49ers. That one was Queen Bee, Beyonce. Yeah, that was another memorable one. I remember watching this, and everybody's like, what just happened? Are we under attack again? I mean, legitimately, everybody thought maybe this is one of those things where they knew hundreds of thousands of people would be watching, millions of people would be watching, hundreds of thousands of people would be in or around the stadium. Let's kill the power. But I mean, it was obvious it wasn't terrorists. It was a power surge, a minor power surge, which took out most of the lights and the power for a good half an hour.
Can you imagine? Right
after Queen Bee performs, great performance by Beyonce. Everybody's like, yes. And then all the power just goes. I mean, just imagine, are you scared? Are we about to get bombed? Why is the power out?
I bet they didn't do another Super Bowl there.
It wasn't like a thunderstorm. Yeah, I know. So it turns out it was just a power surge. And I guess her body was a little too bootylicious for that stadium. Thank you. Oh, man. But yeah, that I remember watching that one on TV. Just everybody kind of wondered what's happening.
So the following year, Super Bowl 48, 2014, I remember this one really well. It sticks out in my head because as I was watching, I noticed that Flea's bass was not plugged in.
Yep. And there wasn't a wireless pack.
No wireless, nothing. I mean, you could watching. You could see it unplugged. And it's like, I think at this point in the game, we all kind of know that most of what you're seeing on stage, on television, is not real. 99% of the time, it's not real. And then you kind of think about the Super Bowl, what it is. Like, let's think about this for a second. You have a couple of minutes to set up a gigantic stage, an entire fireworks display, usually some sort of lighting display and LEDs, all this crazy stuff.
All perfectly timed and in sync to correspond with the commercials you're watching and go live right at a particular second.
And so let's go ahead and do a sound check real quick.
No, not happening.
Not going to happen.
Because what if you run into a problem? What if a cable's bad? They don't have time for any of that.
Right.
It doesn't happen.
That's right. So
it's fake.
2014, Seahawks and Broncos. That's Seattle and Denver. And the Red Hot Chili Peppers are performing at halftime, and they're doing their song. They did their song, Give It Away.
Give it away, give it away, give it away now. We didn't even plan that.
Oh, let's hug now.
Aw.
So, of course, I was not the only one to notice that the stuff wasn't plugged in.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. And a million other people on Twitter.
Right.
I remember tweeting it and looking at everybody else's posts and like photos of the TV. It was great.
Yeah, undeniable. And I think that, for pop stars, as you said earlier, you're dancing around. There's a lot of stuff going on, there's like, we kind of give a little bit of a free pass. Like, okay, you're still performing something amazing. You're still doing amazing dances. And even to be able to lip sync while you do, that's pretty cool. Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we'd like to think that rock bands, especially a band like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who keep it simple, they keep it true to what they do, would not stoop so low, air quotes.
But it's not stooping low, though. I mean, it's a necessity. You have to, or it won't happen. Or you'll pick the next band who will let it happen.
So Super Bowl Sunday, this happens. Just a couple of days later, on Tuesday, Flea, their bassist, publishes a letter, an open letter to the fans on their website. And I'm going to quote a little bit of it right here. He says, "The Red Hot Chili Peppers' stance on any sort of miming has been that we will absolutely not do it," he wrote. The last time we did it, or tried to, was in the late 80s. We were thrown off of, quote, the top of the pops television program in the UK during rehearsals because we refused to mime properly. I played bass with my shoe. John played guitar atop Anthony's shoulders. We basically had a wrestling match on stage, making a mockery of the idea that it was a real live performance.
I hope there's a video of that somewhere.
Oh, I hope so.
Since
it was a rehearsal, I don't know. But the thing is, they wanted to do that. I mean, it was kind of their only exception in their entire career. They looked at the circumstances and said, playing a Super Bowl halftime show would be such an honor and something that we cannot turn down. The NFL, they tried to fight with the NFL about it. They told the NFL, like, no, we're not going to do it. And the NFL said, well, look, if you want to perform, you have to mime it. Like, there's just literally, logistically, there's no way that we can make this work.
It has to happen.
So Anthony did sing live. He's really singing. All of the rest of the music is completely canned, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
Newsflash, that's pretty common too, even for award shows and live TV shows. Where anytime there's a band playing, a lot of times the vocals are pretty much real, or at least stacked. But a lot of the other stuff has been pre-recorded in a recording studio to make it sound live, but just not.
I really do appreciate, though, his honesty to his fans. One thing that is kind of frustrating is when bands or artists try to be like, no, we don't do that. No.
Yeah, come on. Everybody knows now.
And to be able to say, look, we did. Here's why we did it. And it was worth it to us. It's the only time we've ever done it. And, So, yeah, anyway, really cool.
Yeah, I think so. We should do a whole podcast on just live performances in a way. Just, I don't know. Have we done? We've kind of touched on some of this in other podcasts, but we should do one.
Oh, I've got all kinds of stories and kind of behind the scenes stuff on.
We should just do it.
Live performances. Winter Jam Tour just passed through here. I've done that one. I know a lot of really cool things about it.
We might do it. We might do another installment in the live music series. Okay, so 2015. This was Katy Perry's year to do it. Super Bowl 49. That's the one that she rode into the stadium on the fake lion, the mechanical lion. And also was riding the shooting star, soaring overhead of all the people in the crowd. And
I remember it. I was waiting for her to try to be all political.
Right.
And she wasn't. It was nice.
Right. We were not sure what was going to happen. And she sang with Lenny Kravitz. But actually, the highlight of that performance was the left shark. Do you remember the left shark?
I do. There's still memes about the left shark.
Right. And there were these two people dressed in shark outfits, uniforms, costumes, whatever you want to call them. One on her right, one on her left. And they had this dance that they were supposed to do, choreographed to her performance. Well, the shark on her right seemed to be following the choreographed performance to a T, but the one on her left apparently was making it up as they went along, just kind of winging it, spinning in circles, doing the Macarena. Just all sorts of random things. We're like, is he rebelling? Did they have to replace the sick one beforehand? Like, just get out there. There needs to be a left shark. I don't know how to do this. Get out there. And the guy just starts spinning around. Hey, I'm dancing shark with Katy Perry. I don't know what I'm doing. And before the performance was even over, before Katy was off stage, hashtag left shark was actually trending.
So funny.
Yeah, you've seen the memes, you've seen the shark costume guy, and you probably saw it yesterday before the Super Bowl, where everybody was talking about left shark and showing all the memes and wonder what's going to happen this halftime show. I don't know, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens today, especially with it being Justin Timberlake. It's his first time back.
He promised it isn't going to be like last time, and apparently he got off without, like they said, it was all Janet Jackson's fault. He got off without any kind of like you're fine, dude. It wasn't your breast showing, so we'll have you back.
Yeah,
I know.
That's crazy.
Even though he was the one that pulled it down,
right?
I don't know.
So yeah, I suppose if there's anything just groundbreaking, breathtaking, insanely crazy that happens during this halftime show, we will hop back on in a minute and talk about it. Otherwise, assuming that it went off without a hitch, then I'm sure it was an amazing game.
What a great performance by Justin Timberlake. My favorite part was the insert something here.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. There's a little bit about halftime shows and kind of how it evolved into the halftime show that we enjoy today. Of course, we know all the music for all the halftime shows is completely fake. There's just no way that they have time or the resources to put it all together. So whenever you're reflecting back on the game yesterday, be thinking about that. And I do want to give a big shout out to Real Sound Productions for putting this podcast together, editing, mixing, and producing it.
Just giving us that platform to air out our brains onto the podcast waves. Is that a thing?
Podcast waves?
It wouldn't be radio waves or like iPod waves. The waves? Are they even waves?
They're not even waves.
The
Electrical pulses.
The ones and zeros on iTunes? I don't know. Thanks for letting us spit into the microphones. But Jake Jones, thanks for being my buddy and helping me out with this podcast. And I am privileged and blessed to even be sitting in a room with you on the other microphone while you're doing the podcast. So, thank you for that.
Come here and give me a big hug. Thank you for your research.
I can't get any closer. I'm on your lap. We're sharing a microphone.
Just big hug. Honestly, it's been great. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for tuning in week after week, subscribing to our podcast. Thank you for keeping us number one on iTunes, the number one iTunes music podcast. We will see you next week right here.
Please hit us up on our socials real quick at Twitter or Instagram at Turned Up Podcast or on Facebook.
.com/turneduppodcast.
I like breaking it up in the middle of things. Or, of course, you can just go to turneduppodcast.com, which will take you straight to our, PodBean site where we upload all our episodes directly.
See a big, beautiful picture of our mugs.
That's right. You get to see half our face on each side of the words right down the middle of the page. It's kind of cool. But in the words of Elvis Presto, this is Nashville signing out.
Peace.